Hi, I'm Saf Aslam, and if you're watching this, then you've likely agreed to or stumbled upon on my essential request for help in addressing a lot of the issues that are on campus when it comes to some of the more basic parts of infrastructure. I'm going to show you guys how to identify the issues that a wheelchair would face when it comes to the sidewalks and how broken up they are, and then hopefully you guys will be able to find those on your own time. And from there, I'm going to hopefully attach a little form to this video so you guys can fill that out, and then we'll get this little impromptu campus upkeep committee up and running, and then we can actually make some real change by first identifying the problems. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So this is basically the kind of sidewalk that you would run, right? It's flat, it's not broken up whatsoever, and it's even level. Also, that we are able to roll on it without some issues. So we're gonna keep on going now. You see how this street lamp essentially makes it what's already now become a very narrow sidewalk much narrower. It makes it a lot harder for me to navigate my wheelchair between these two very small areas and then keep on going. Now, when you look to the side, you'll see that this narrow sidewalk is also right next to a very steep hill. That means that in the event, if I ever lose control of my wheelchair and I don't have enough room to even rotate it at all, I will end up falling off of this hill. That means I will likely die or at least very severely injure myself, because this is a very big heavy metal wheelchair, and when it goes tumbling, I would usually break my neck or at least break my arm or something very not fun. So this is something that to look out for. It's not just about the sidewalks themselves. Think about what's beside them as well. Is it too narrow? Is it next to something that looks like if you lose control of a wheelchair, you could end up falling and getting hurt off of? That's another thing to think about as well. Let's keep on going. Because the sidewalk is so thin, nobody else can walk beside you as well. When you're in a wheelchair, when it's this thin, right? That means that anytime there's a jogger coming, or better, if somebody on a bicycle comes on this, or on a scooter or whatever, I can't move out of the way. That's a recipe for disaster. So that's another thing to think about as well. It's about the thinness and being able to have more than one person on each side, right? The next issue. So again, lamppost, making it very difficult to move across. But also, you see now how I'm a bit tilted to the side. That's not movie magic. That is because the hill has essentially gone up and it's made what should be a level sidewalk very unlevel. That makes it a lot more difficult to control this wheelchair and prevent it from falling into the road. Now we're going to focus on, this is when a cracked sidewalk becomes too much. It's one thing when it's just one crack, but you see now how it's become almost broken up and impossible to move over. It makes it very difficult to, again, control my wheelchair while going across this, because all of these are broken up into different chunks and just become basically impossible to move across without bumping up and down and losing control of the wheels slightly. And again, next to such a steep hill, makes it even worse. So that's something to look out for as well. Cracks in the sidewalk, it's one thing when they're thin. It's another thing when they become this bad and nothing's done about them. A crack like this is thin, this is fine. Nothing is unlevel about it. You don't need to worry about something like this. But when it gets to that level, that's when issues really start to pop up. And usually something like that starts out as something like this. But over time, people ignore it, and then it just keeps on getting worse and worse. And then you end up with situations like that, and situations like what I'm about to show you. So this is where I have to draw the line, because my wheelchair actually can't go over something like this. You see this ledge, how it's so far up, it's become so off level from the original sidewalk. When I'm faced with something like this, my wheelchair can't go over it. Now, it might seem like I might be able to cross this, but for wheelchairs like mine, and generally speaking other wheelchairs as well, there's sometimes a little bolt attached at the bottom which allows it to connect into a safety mechanism that a wheelchair van has. When you have something like that, you can't make a clearance like this because it could potentially damage the bolt, and just generally speaking, it is very unstable to cross over something like that, which is why I can't come over this. So when you see something this off level, that's when you really need to take notice, because that usually means at that point a wheelchair just can't go over a pavement like that, especially if it's a manual one. I'm going to have my camera woman and help by pointing out the other areas that are just above are just ahead of me, which are also inaccessible. So just looking to the side first off, you see how this bleeds off? Again, huge hill, the wheelchair falls, the wheelchair's falling. And now if you go a bit further, you're gonna see how the sidewalk does not bleed in to the actual pavement properly, and as a result, it ends up just making it impossible for a wheelchair to go over it. Couple that with the fact that the lamppost, again, is blocking the way, means that you can't go over it. And then, if you look to the side where the sidewalk is closed, you'll see that it's so far up that I can't end up actually clearing that ledge. It's too much, right? So in the event of a fire or something, I have no way to get out onto the road, and I have no way to get up into the building as well if I'm trying to enter to the side. Now the final cherry on top, if you go over there, goes down straight up, just broken inside, no wheelchair, and full electric, rough terrain or whatever, be able to cross that. This is the way that it's off level. So the big thing here is that when you're improving stuff like this, you're not just making things easier for disabled students, but you're just making them better for students in general, right? All of these issues, they might not seem like they affect you, but I can assure you, when they're fixed, it's gonna feel so much better just to walk on them. You won't have to worry about small things like that ledge over there. There can end up being a puddle accumulating there as well, which will affect everyone. When you improve things like this, you're making it better for everyone on the campus, not just for a specific subset of students. And as a result, that's why I think it's really important to address issues like this, because it might just seem that you're doing this for disabled students, but you're doing this for yourself as well. You're doing this for everybody who's going to come after us as well. You're making this campus a better place to be, a safer place to be, a more accessible place to be, and I think that's a really nice thing to do. So if you could help out with this, I would really appreciate it so much, and I'd like to thank you so much for even taking an interest in something like this. I just thank you, and I look forward to seeing what you guys are going to do with this.